Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to absolutely love this. You're going to find this fascinating, especially for those who have followed me all this time, but even more so for those who have purchased my books and read them and studied them in great detail. So, much like the Bible, I've hidden certain things within my books. And not only have I hidden them, I even spreaded them out between this book and the previous book. This is the follow up book to my previous book titled The Mark of the Beast. So I hid these things inside, certain things inside, because if you've read these two books I've written, I clearly point out that there would be false prophets like Jonathan Kahn, Perry Stone, and many of these others that would steal the prophetic words that were given to me. I clearly point that out in these books that I've written that I knew. So I hid certain things. The Lord showed me how to hide certain things. And what this would allow me to do is later on be able to hold them account, because the books that they've now written are vague ramblings. They contain a lot of jargon, what's called in literary terms, it's called jargon and gibberish. That's what their books contain, and a lot of things that were wrong as compared to my books, because all they did was create what's known as a derivative work. But because they were not given these prophetic words from the Lord, they didn't understand and know the things that I know. So we're going to learn a little bit about this. We're going to go into great intricate detail. So when you think about prophecy, you have to think of it on as multi-layered, multifaceted, multi-tiered, and that is the omnipotence of God. That is how you know that God is at work, that his hand is at work through the written words that he's given to me, through the prophetic words that he's given to me. So in April the 1st of 2020, I gave a prophetic word on my other channel, and that very specific prophetic word was theta. Very, very specific prophetic word called theta, as it related to the curve of infection, to the curve of infection, of the infection rate of the thing that we've lived through, and to the perihelion of the Atlas comet. I gave that prophetic word. It was very important, very credible, because the two were in sync. Atlas and the curve, the bell curve of the coronavirus infection rate was in sync. They were in line with one another. But I gave the prophetic word theta. The incredible part behind that is I gave this 7 months, this word, 7 months before they ever decided to give the coronavirus variants Greek names. I gave this prophetic word, and it was 9 months before they gave the one variant the name theta. Very incredible, very specific, because in this video I talk about the curve of the infection rate. It's all about the coronavirus. And I gave the specific name that would come 9 months later. And again, they didn't even begin to give these variants Greek names until 7 months after I named theta. That's very important. And that is a incredible, very specific prophecy fulfilled. But it gets deeper than that, and I'm going to show you how deep it really goes. And this is the things that the false Trump prophets, Jonathan Kahn artist, Perry Stone, and all of these others cannot show you. These are the incredible things, the knowledge that has been given to me, where God can give me one word that can have so many meanings behind it. And again, this comes out of this book, Theta, where I write about theta in this copyrighted book, and this is what's driving them crazy too. I know Timothy Dixon literally broke down in tears in one video after I had his entire channel removed broke down in tears and was crying, "Oh, you can't keep all the prophecies to yourself. How dare you copyright your prophecies? You have to share them with us." No, I don't, Timothy Dixon, and I wrote it in this book that God specifically told me to copyright my prophecies because fraudulent false prophets like Jonathan Kahn Artist and Timothy Dixon and Perry Stone and many others would come out and steal and twist the prophetic words given to me. So we're reviewing theta, and this comes in just one area. I write about it in many parts of this book, Wormwood, and I'm just going to reference page 45, where I specifically write about theta. Very specifically. Another thing that I focus on in this book, I concentrate heavily on, is the waters. And again, just to show, just to prove, we go back to Atlas. I'm talking about Atlas because this has to show that this all comes from my channel too. It's all interlinked. It's all copyrighted intellectual property. If it's on my channel or in my books, they are interconnected. All copyrighted intellectual property. They go hand in hand. So that goes to show it's all copyrighted. And this again goes back to I focus on theta and also the waves. A great part of the book Wormwood focuses on theta and the waves. And again, that's in chapter 6, but it's all throughout the book where I talk about the waters, but also the waves. And as it pertains to, it's not literal waters. I'm not talking about literal waters. I'm talking about other waves. The other waves, the coronavirus, and how it's all impacting the waters, which are the peoples, according to Revelation 17, verse 15. We're not talking about literal waters because Revelation 17:15 shows, and this is what all these false prophets missed. They thought the waters spoken of with wormwood meant literal waters because they didn't know about Revelation 17:15. The waters actually are not literal waters. They are the peoples, nations, multitudes, and tongues. That's what everybody missed. I saw Timothy Dixon in his most recent video. Now he's trying to change his prophecies. Him and Perry, because they said, oh, there's going to be, Perry, of course, can pronounce it properly. He says, I saw tsunamis hitting the east and the west coast. Whereas Timothy Dixon, he has two words for tsunami. He can't pronounce tsunami. He says, a nusami, a nasumi, or a tunami. He can't even speak right, but he wants you to believe he's the mouthpiece of God when he's just a fraud, illiterate fraud at that. So, again, I focus on theta and the waves in that book. And the only way you fully grasp it is to have read the previous book, the initial book in the series about the sine waves that the cellular phone and Bluetooth frequency waves produce. The Bluetooth sine waves that's produced by the cell phones. And again, that's why you see all these ones jumping on my prophecies, trying to ride the coattails of the true prophet, but it's already all been copyrighted. This is what's driving them crazy, that they have to pay me. Now they have to pay their dues and acknowledge that they are not prophets. They only stole the prophecies from me. But this is the best part. Again, I point out in my books that God told me, he said he knew these ones would steal. So he made me leave very, very important details out so that they would write their books and I could later come forth and embarrass them horribly, and show just how ignorant they are, and prove these prophetic words were not given to them. So Jonathan, again, he had to do his waves prophecy December the 31st, long after my books had been published. But he wants to connect himself. realize they all want to connect themselves to my prophecies so that they can be seen as prophets, because they desperately want to be seen as prophets. But all it's done, what they don't realize, they did me a favor. They have generated monies for me, generated not only monies from my ministry, but have generated me notoriety, because when it all comes out, not only will it people have to acknowledge me, but they will see that these are frauds. They will see ones like Jonathan Kahn, or con artist and frauds, and Perry Stone, and the Tom Horns, and the Derek and Sharon Gilberts. They'll see that I was the one that was given the prophetic words, and they're the ones that stole it. So here's the in-depth understanding that I didn't share that I'm sharing now. So when you talk about theta, and remember, they gave these variants Greek names. When you hear about theta, you have to understand that your brain also produces theta waves. And here's an entire article in Healthline of a study done in 2017 of how they had learned to manipulate your theta brain waves. They have learned to manipulate your theta brain waves. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. That's how they're doing it. They have learned to manipulate the people. Bluetooth frequency, the sine waves that the Bluetooth frequency produces. The sine waves of the Bluetooth frequency. So now here is your study from 2017, which is not long before an event manifested itself. It gets even better. Again, this is the Healthline article that explains all of it from 2017. It's talking about the study that was done, how they have learned to manipulate your theta brain waves. How are they doing this, ladies and gentlemen? Wirelessly. Oh my Lord, the false prophets missed it all. They missed it all. They do it wirelessly, ladies and gentlemen. How are they doing it wirelessly? The Bluetooth frequency, the sine waves. But was this spoken of in Scripture? And who was the only prophet? Who was the only prophet that could know all of these things? There will be signs in the waves. There would be signs in the waves. The Bluetooth frequency, ladies and gentlemen, it's called a sine wave. That is exactly what the Bluetooth frequency is called. And there shall be signs in the waves. See, they cannot elaborate on the things that I know. All they can do is give you ramblings and vague understandings, vague teachings. They do not and cannot elaborate on the things that I know, and they cannot show you the research that I've done. All they do is give you, oh, there's going to be a shaking and a great whirlwind and a great move of God. That's all they have. That's all they have. They cannot elaborate on the things that I know. They cannot show the research that I've done on all of this to write these books, ladies and gentlemen. It's done through wireless implants. Wireless, ladies and gentlemen. They don't know the things that I know. They cannot reveal the things that I know. And that's why the Lord told me to copyright all of this and leave very, very precise, intricate, specific details out. That way I can embarrass them. And it's written in the books, ladies and gentlemen. It's literally written, especially in this book. The Lord told me, leave certain things out, copyright it, and leave it out, because He would want to embarrass them, because they have kindled His anger for stealing the prophetic words given to me and twisting them for their false Messiah, Donald Trump. They have committed idolatry. But more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, here's the key takeaway. Jeremiah chapter 23 deals entirely with false prophets. And in Jeremiah 23, verse 15, the very first appearance of wormwood, the very first time in the Old Testament you see wormwood mentioned, he's saying that he is behold, I will feed the false prophets with wormwood. This is a curse. This is a cursing, a judgment. He's calling upon false prophets of any generation. He says he is going to feed them with wormwood. And for those of you who have followed me, you already know the great saying that I have, that these false prophets they saw that I had the cookie jar of prophetic knowledge, and they could not help themselves. They had to reach in and steal the proverbial prophetic cookies from my cookie jar of wormwood. I have fed them with wormwood, ladies and gentlemen. There it is, prophecy fulfilled. I will feed them with wormwood. The false prophets of any generation, they have been fed with wormwood because they could not help but to keep their hands out of the proverbial prophetic cookie jar. Y'all be sure to spread this message. God bless.